So now in this Cavalo Dinheiro, there is a, how can I say, it's a no man's land, or it's every place it's very strange, like João says. I didn't knew, of course it's a hospital because Ventura is really ill, but everybody's ill anyway. I mean, even my crew, me and Leonardo, and we were, actually when we do the films we are in a very bad, it's a contamination thing between in front or behind the camera, I think. And we are always suffering a little bit. So it's a hospital, but it could be a prison, and could even be a castle, and they could be slaves from, slaves, And this is because we do not have the studio that I was talking about. I lost the studio. I lost the wardrobe. That's why he's in a pajama. And when he puts on his shirt, it's like saying, again, a ceremony again, or something, life, or he said it. It's exactly that. She puts on her traditional scarf, and he puts on his Sunday shirt or party shirt, or not party, but elegant shirt. And but we lost everything. I mean, it's much more important serious for them, because they lost the country. Now they lost the neighborhood. They are relocated in another neighborhood, but it's social blocks, housing, awful. That they hate it. And I did a film there called Juventude em Marcha, Colossal Youth. And there you see the white houses that they hate. And now after that film, I told them, so what now? And they said, let's do something else outside. I remember that. Let's do it somewhere else. And I did a short film. We just crossed the road, the periférico, and we shot in how do you say, baldio? How do you say, baldio? Baldio. In front of the neighborhood, because they couldn't stand being there. So they couldn't stand being there, meaning, for me it's great, because they learned that cinema has no place in those kind of things. Documentary or TV, or it's made for those kind of things, perhaps, but not real big films like I want to do, that you have to do with, in real spaces. They have to be real spaces that people like to live in. And that's not a real space, those kind of... They know it, they build houses. They are builders, they are, how do you say, bricklayers, pedreiros. So they know their jobs. So, losing the studio, losing the wardrobe, losing the makeup, losing catering, because we had a wonderful catering in Fontainhas. Every house had something. So now I don't know. I think I'm now saying I don't know, but we're approaching some sort of, perhaps some form a bit, perhaps too complicated or too difficult, or I don't know if this film is very easy for just one screen, one viewing. It's also good if you see it 2 times and pay a ticket. Not for me, but but perhaps it's a bit too complicated. It jumps a lot and has no real anchor. There's no real, like the other films I did were more concentrated in 1 or 2 or 3 places. This goes in a very... But I always saw this film as a kind of, like a lot of films today with superheroes where they cross the walls, They could, like Vitalina, she could cross walls. I had this idea that we almost did it without special effects, just she would go away from the film. But then we had this idea, and it's better really, because she disappears from the film. For me, she goes inside into an office. Probably there's a boss inside or some sort of government guy. And so she joins the society. She will be another, how do you say, mulher a dias? How do you say, cleaning lady? Well, and at the same time, I think it's like it's Ventura trying to forget this woman. So we had this idea of doing this movement of the camera. I don't do very much movements because I don't have ideas for movements, but in this it seemed right because I think this woman is a creation of, for me she's a creation of Ventura. He makes her appear, conjuring, that's the word, conjuring something, and then makes her go away because he cannot stand her anymore. She's too frightening, as women are for. In this case, because they all left, you have to know that this, in Cabo Verde here, Mexicans going abroad, first the man goes, and the women stay. So Vitalina is also the woman who stayed behind. And like João said, she's, and this is how I prefer to work when you talk about politics, or this is how I prefer to work. Vitalina still today, well not today, tomorrow we will know, but she doesn't have her papers yet. She's, how do you say, clandestina. She came to Portugal almost 2 years now, and she had no papers. She came for the funeral of her husband. And then she stayed. She could get this permission, that she reads that in the film. She could get a special permission, not even a visa, just like a charity thing. She could come, she stayed. She's now living in the house of this dead husband, and she's alone. She has 2 sons, son and daughter in Cabo Verde, and she has no paper. So that's a thing we do a lot. We help her. We try to help her with not money, but trying to, insist, going to all the places, trying to get her to the right places. Well, for an immigrant or for people like this, papers, offices like this, government, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. That's why I insisted in so many documents in the film also, because it belongs to them. It's their story. It's their daily life. It's their daily life. So, because she still, when I met her 2 years ago, and I said, I would like you to do something with me, and she said, okay, let's try. And we started talking. I thought, this is real, it's not my imagination, that she could talk like she talks in the film. I don't know if the ones who saw the film. She whispers very, like, just to say that she's a clandestine, I think it's the best way to, if you want to get something political out of this. This is, I think, for me, the lesson of the American films, especially. Jacques Tourneur and Richard Fleischer, André de Toth, you know these names, more or less? Guys in Hollywood in 40s, 50s who did films in 2 weeks, 5 weeks. They had wonderful ideas. But this guy is going to talk very, very, because he's, he's in the margin of society, or is, so I thought Vitalina, she could whisper, not only because she might be dead or a creation, or she could be a zombie or a ghost or a phantom, but because she has no papers. she has no identity. She has no Portuguese identity. She has no passport. She has no visa, and so she's like a wind. It seemed a nice way better way to do something. Perhaps it doesn't come across. It's a stupid idea, but so. So yeah, it's an hospital, it's a prison, it's Ventura's memories a little bit. It was like a map, because when this thing in our country happened, 25 of April, 74, I was almost 13, and it was a big thing for me and for everybody. It was, and I was beginning to read and to listen to music and film, and on top of that we had a revolution. That's a chance when you know, hearing, I don't know. It was great, and so it was 1 year, because in that 11th of March 75, it marks a little bit the end of. It was a very sick moment. It was a very hot summer, and there were planes and these monsters, really the right-wing monster. I mean, the generals and all the people in power now appeared and destroyed everything. Well, the end began. And for Ventura, it's a little bit what he says and a little bit what I worked on. His nightmare began. So this coincidence between the failure of this revolution and the failure of this dream, well, I mean, I don't want to say failure, but at the same time I think it's very clear that Ventura is a kind of has the quality of the hero, of the pioneer, of the immigrants. I love immigrants. I think they are very courageous people. So they have this courageous, epic side, tall man, like in the Westerns. But at the same time, there's this dark, doomed side, the failure of all immigrants, all of them. I mean, and the rich millionaires who succeed, that's no exception. It does not exist. So Ventura has both, and this dark side is even darker because he went really nuts. He went. Why? I could go one way, could go the other way. I didn't want to, but he's not well. Like we are not well, all of us. But it's the coincidence of this revolution going wrong and Ventura going out of his mind, or that I tried to do in this one. And